We have to go beyond the shallow advice of just get more sleep. Today, we're going to deconstruct the architecture of what true recovery actually is. We are going to blueprint why 8 hours in bed can still leave you feeling like you've just run a marathon in your sleep. And look, this isn't about counting sheep. This is about engineering a total systemic reset. So, let's begin. This quote, it just captures the central paradox that traps so many of us, right? You do everything by the book. You hit the pillow on time, the room is cold, it's dark, but you wake up foggy, drained, already running on fumes. Why? Well, it's because while your body is still, your internal engine, your nervous system is still redlining. You haven't actually powered down. You're just idling on the runway, burning precious fuel all night long, getting ready for a takeoff that never even comes. So here's our blueprint. First, we're going to expose what I call the hallucination of rest. Then we'll diagnose the core problem, your autonomic hijack. From there, we build the solution with the reset engine, and we'll install it with an action plan, your 3-night protocol. We'll finish up by showing you how to close the circuits so you can reclaim your vitality for good. This is a deep dive into the engineering of your own energy. Okay, let's start with a foundational and honestly a pretty revolutionary idea. The exhaustion that's plaguing you isn't just a symptom of being busy. It's the result of a massive misunderstanding of what rest actually is. We've been sold this lie of passive rest, the idea that if we just stop moving, our bodies will automatically handle everything else. But biology tells a completely different story. True, deep recovery is an active process. It's a deliberate, skillful negotiation you have with your nervous system. This is the crucial distinction right here. Your fatigue isn't coming from the amount of work you're doing. It's coming from the work you can't stop doing inside your own head. Your mind is constantly running simulations. The next meeting, that tough conversation, tomorrow's to-do list, long after you've physically clocked out. You see, recovery isn't a passive state you just fall into. It's an active skill, one you have to learn, practice, and execute with precision. You've just forgotten where the off switch is. So what's happening on a biological level? Your nervous system gets trapped in what we call autonomic limbo. It's caught between on and off. It's running this ancient survival script that, for millions of years, served our ancestors really well. That script says stillness equals vulnerability, right? Letting your guard down could mean getting attacked. In our world, the predator is an overflowing inbox, a project deadline, or just the social pressure to be on all the time. So even when you're relaxing on the couch, your brain is still scanning for these modern threats, preventing real recovery from ever kicking in. And this leads us to a systemic problem. This isn't a personal failure. It's not a lack of discipline. It's a biological glitch, a complete hijack of your autonomic nervous system. It's this invisible wall that creates the chronic cycle of the drained high performer, where all your effort no longer seems to translate into results. This brings us to a key concept I call the rest glitch. See, your brain is a prediction machine. It sees all your unresolved mental loops, all those open tabs in your mind, as immediate threats that have to be dealt with. So to prepare, it keeps the engine hot, ready to act. And the classic symptom of this? That dreaded 3 a.m. wake up. Your eyes snap open, heart's pounding, and your mind is instantly racing about an email you forgot to send. That's not a sign of a productive mind. It's a symptom of a systemic hijack. Your system never really shut down. This constant internal activity creates what's known as residual load. Think of it like the accumulated metabolic debt from all that unresolved stress. It's the cognitive static from every single mental open tab. This load acts like a governor on your system, preventing your body from ever shifting into its deep repair and restoration state. It's the reason you feel like you're working twice as hard for half the results. You're not lacking motivation. You are literally lacking the clean energy required to perform because you're burning it all just to manage this internal friction. So fundamentally, your system has two modes. On the left, you've got the defense state, run by your sympathetic nervous system. This is your fight or flight mode, high alert, high cortisol, burning resources for immediate survival. Then on the right, you have the growth state, the parasympathetic system. This is your rest and digest mode, cellular repair, flushing waste, building resources for tomorrow. The problem is, high performers get stuck in the defense state. And here's the critical piece. The defense state has a survival veto. It will actively block the growth state from turning on because it thinks the cost of letting its guard down is just too high. Now, over time, this hijack creates a devastating downward spiral we call conditioned fatigue. Your body literally learns a new negative association. It starts to see your bed not as a sanctuary for recovery, but as a waiting room for more stress, a place where you just lie awake with a racing mind. This poor recovery leads to more stress and a lower capacity to handle the next day, which then leads to even worse recovery the next night. It's a vicious cycle that just grinds you down. But it does not have to be this way. We've diagnosed the problem, now let's engineer the solution. And this isn't about trying harder or forcing yourself to relax. This is about architecture. We are going to build a powerful, elegant framework for taking back control of your biology. This is the reset engine. The core of the reset engine is the decoupling protocol. It's a three-part system designed to do two things with surgical precision. First, to manually burn off that residual load we talked about, and second, to engineer a deep, intentional shutdown of your nervous system. This is the active, high-leverage strategy that replaces the passive, low-success strategy of just trying to sleep. We are moving from hoping for rest to commanding recovery. So, what are the components of this protocol? It's three foundational pillars. First, the Input Sieve, where we get ruthless about editing incoming noise. Second, Autonomic Engineering, where we manually flip the switch from the defense state to the growth and repair state. And third, Cognitive Offloading, where we systematically externalize all our mental burdens to finally close those open loops in the brain. Let's break down that first pillar. The Input Sieve requires a radical shift in perspective. Your entire day is governed by your to-do list, right? What do I need to do next? To kick off recovery, you have to flip that question to, what do I need to silence? This means identifying and ruthlessly deleting sources of stimulation, the phone notifications, the late-night emails, the news, and even the internal chatter. We're moving from a state of input overload to one of strategic sensory deprivation. The second pillar is autonomic engineering. Here, we stop passively waiting for our body to feel safe enough to sleep, and we start actively forcing that switch to happen. We do this by giving the brain a powerful and undeniable safety signal. This signal needs to be so clear that it convinces your ancient survival script that rest is now more real, more important, and safer than work. This is where a non-negotiable hard stop to your workday and a protected pre-sleep buffer become absolutely critical tools. You are creating a clear boundary that tells your nervous system that the day's battle is over. It is now safe to power down. And that brings us to our third pillar, cognitive offloading, which this quote just nails perfectly. I mean, imagine trying to sleep while you're physically holding 100 bricks. It's absurd. You'd be tense, strained, and you couldn't truly rest. Yet that's exactly what we do mentally. We get into bed actively holding on to every task, every worry, every idea. Cognitive offloading is the simple, profound act of putting those bricks in a wheelbarrow before you lie down. You externalize that mental burden, freeing up your cognitive resources to focus entirely on recovery. And this protocol creates a profound shift. Just look at the difference. In a state of passive sleep, while you're still carrying all that residual load, maybe 70% of your energy is wasted just managing internal stress, leaving only 30% for actual repair. But with engineered recovery, we completely flip that ratio. Now, only about 10% of your energy is needed for any remaining noise, freeing up a massive 90% to be invested directly into deep cellular repair, systemic flushing, and building resources. This is literally the battery RAM upgrade for your life. All right, we've covered the theory, the why, and the framework. Now, let's get tactical. We are shifting from blueprint to action. Think of this as a direct coaching session on how you can install this new operating system tonight. Here is your simple but incredibly powerful 3-night plan. Step 1, the recovery audit. Tonight, I want you to identify your 2 biggest digital on switches, the 2 apps or devices that keep your brain in work mode. Is it email, Slack, social media? Be honest and write them down. Step 2, the 90-minute shift. For the next 3 nights, you will create a 90-minute screen-free buffer before bed. No phones, no laptops, no TV. This isn't just about blue light, it's about protecting the purity of your shutdown sequence from new information. And finally, step 3, the brain dump sieve. Right before you get into bed, take out a physical piece of paper and a pen. Write down every single thing on your mind, your to-do list, your worries, your ideas. Get it out of your head and onto the page. You're signaling to your brain that these items are captured and can be dealt with tomorrow. And with this, we are fundamentally changing the objective. The goal is no longer just sleeping more hours. The new, smarter objective is recovering deeper. We are optimizing for the velocity and the quality of your shutdown, not the perfection or duration of your sleep. A fast, clean shutdown followed by 6 hours of deep recovery is infinitely more valuable than 8 hours of restless, shallow sleep. The goal is to get to the end of the night having activated the reset, not having fought your brain for hours.
Okay, that brings us to our conclusion. This is where we tie everything together and give you a new framework for vitality, a new way to think about how you show up, not just to your work, but to your entire life as the sharpest, most present version of yourself.
This is the ultimate takeaway. Your energy, your focus, your vitality, it's not a game of chance you hope to win. It is an engineered outcome. It is the direct result of a well-designed reset. You know, greatness isn't about how much you can endure on a drained battery. Biology always wins. You cannot outperform a system that is fundamentally depleted. The only way to win in the long run is to master the architecture of the reset. So here is my challenge to you, starting right now. Perform that recovery audit today. Find your single biggest source of stimulation noise, that one input sieve move that will send the loudest, clearest safety signal to your system that the day is done. Find that switch, and with real intention, shut it down. Because that is what this is all about. Mastering your recovery architecture isn't just about feeling less tired. It's about unlocking a whole new level of clarity, creativity, and presence in everything you do. It's about having the deep cellular energy to deliver on your biggest ambitions. So go close the circuits to claim the impact.